Green one.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Yuria Cruz. I'm from Mexico, but right now I'm doing my PhD in Barcelona. So what I'm going to present to you is part of my PhD research that is called Inhibition, the Key Plan for Executive Function in Children with ADHD and OTT Symptomatologies. But what should, we focus on ADHD and OTT symptomatologies because Moffitt and Caspi suggested that our life course persistent antisocial behaviors starts in early life. It has been reported that it starts with symptoms of ADHD, then it becomes a comorbidity between ADHD and oppositional defiant disorder. Then this comorbidity evolves into an ADHD and conduct disorder, and in the adulthood, it develops as an antisocial personality disorder. This has a social impact because the people with this diagnosis tend to have a despite for the rights of others and are recurrently involved in criminal acts. But this line of time, what it's telling us is that it could be prevented. So we focus on the middle infancy, where we could find high peaks of symptoms of ADHD and oppositional defined behaviors. So if you, sorry, I'm very nervous. But if you can think that a child has these two diagnoses, I'm gonna put an example. Well, this child is gonna be really active, really impulsive, but this impulsivity is going to be towards aggression. So in the middle infancy, the child is going to be like 8 years old. It cannot be stopped so easily like a preschooler child. So if you say to a child, do not cross this line, he's not only going to cross it, but he's going to destroy something afterwards. So that's why we are going to focus in the middle infancy. So just to start mention about the ADHD, Burns and Wall suggested that it was really important to differentiate between ADHD hyperactive and ADHD inattentiveness. They did a longitudinal study with preschooler children, and what they found was that hyperactivity can predict inattentiveness and can predict oppositional defiant disorder. So it cannot be the other way around. Inattentiveness will not predict hyperactivity and will not predict OTT. So what does hyperactivity and OTT have in common? And what is so different about ADHD hyperactivity and inattentiveness? One of the main differences are in their executive functions. Children with ADHD inattentiveness tend to have a deficit in selective attention and speed processes. In early findings have mentioned that they also have a deficit in all the executive functions, but mainly in working memory and planning. The children with ADHD hyperactive have mainly a deficit in behavioral inhibition, and the studies that have focused in children with OTT have found, mostly, that is not a conclusive finding, that they have a behavioral deficit in behavioral inhibition. So why behavioral inhibition is associated with antisocial behaviors? Well, behavioral inhibition is highly associated with impulsivity, hyperactivity, and this is highly this is a factor that is well documented to be to develop antisocial behaviors. So this is the line of time that I presented to you at the beginning. But we made some changes. Here we separated ADHD hyperactive and ADHD inattentiveness. And what they have in common between ADHD hyperactive and OTT is behavioral inhibition. So to prove this, we made this study based on two hypotheses. The first one, behavioral inhibition has an impact in ADHD hyperactive and OTT, but not in ADHD inattentiveness. And second, when the symptomatologies are combined, the effect of behavioral inhibition is only going to be in ADHD hyperactive plus ODD, not in ADHD inattentiveness plus ODD. So I want to clear this up, but the first hypothesis is going to try to say that behavioral inhibition is going to be the key that separate inattentiveness of this chain of disorders. And the second hypothesis is going to try to say that hyperactivity and ODD will have this in common, but separate inattentiveness and ODD. Okay, so to test this, it participated 248 Spanish children, and they have between 6 to 12 years old. We measured the executive functions with the brief and the child symptomatology with the child symptom inventory. We did a pre-analysis with some Pearson correlations, and we tested the hypothesis with the structural equation modeling. This is my model. As you can see, behavioral inhibition is related to all the executive functions. In the middle, you can see inhibition. At the bottom is shift, planning, and working memory. These four are executive functions. And at the top, you can see the symptomatology. The symptomatology is related to behavioral inhibition and working memory because they are the most documented executive functions related to the symptomatology. So yes, in the structural equation modeling we can see if a model had an excellent fit, had a regular fit, good fit, or does not fit at all. And we tested the comorbidity with the latent variable, as you can see at the top. So the correlations with the intercorrelations, ADHD and attentiveness have the highest correlations with the working memory and planning. And ADHD hyperactive and ODD have the highest correlations with behavioral inhibition. So it kind of looks like we are going in the right direction. But we tested the hypothesis. And what happened? Well, ADHD inattentiveness and ODD have a similar fit. The model of oppositional defined disorder had a kind of better fit, but it's not so conclusive. But the ADHD hyperactive had an excellent fit. So it was a difference between ADHD hyperactive and inattentiveness. And in the second square, where you can see here the comorbid symptoms, the ADHD inattentiveness plus ODD does not fit at all, but it does ADHD hyperactive plus ODD. So based on these results, the first hypothesis is kind of accepted because there was a difference between hyperactivity and inattentiveness. But we cannot find this difference so conclusive in the model inattentiveness and ODD. So we could explain this because of the relation between inattentiveness and working memory. In this specific model, the prediction was really high, but that didn't happen in the other models. But the second hypothesis is accepted. The model of ADHD hyperactive plus ODD had a really good fit, and that was because of behavioral inhibition. So we have some time. There is a lot of time. Okay, but there is some clinical implications. The first one is that if you are a clinical psychologist and you are going to work with executive functions with children with ADHD hyperactive and the comorbidity between ADHD hyperactive plus ODD, you should start working with behavioral inhibition, because apparently this is like the base to develop the other executive functions. And the second is that this is giving us a hint that if we have children with symptoms or hyperactivity, we should start working in early ages with behavioral inhibition. So we did have some limitations. First, the number of participants. It was not so high with the to work with structural equation modeling. It does work, but we should work with more number of participants. That we tested with the brief, and we can improve this work with testing each executive function with each test, and that in the future we could compare this normal population with a clinical population. So this is all for now.